The 6'5" Crognale coming forward on set pieces.
Yeah, that was one of the things we were looking forward to with these two teams this year, right? Grant Lillard and Alex Crognale, two of the best center backs in the country, and their coaches say that, but if you watch them play, you'll see right away the size of those players is important, not just defensively, but offensively too, as they serve as great targets on restarts.
All right, Indiana in all red from head to toe. The visitors from Maryland in all white from head to toe. There's Sebastian Elney, the sophomore now. Scored some amazing goals last year en route to a first-team all-Big Ten freshman campaign. And there's Crognale. He came back, and Sasho Soroski said it was amazing. Maryland so many times has players leave early. Nobody left early.
Yeah, Indiana was in the same boat. Both of these teams could have lost players, and they didn't. Here's Crognale going up against Hyacinth. Hyacinth gets tangled up. Not a yellow card situation, of course, but a foul. We hear the whistle, and now the restart. And if Indiana has any dreams of winning a ball in the air, they're going to have to beat the big 6'5" defender, Alex Crognale.
Shad Hyacinth, a junior from Trinidad and Tobago, a transfer from Belmont. As Thompson is over the ball. You see Brian Mazanoff, the assistant coach, about 10 yards from the ball in the T-shirt right there. Todd Yeagley just walked off your screen, the head coach. Thompson surveying Hyacinth. We'll see him in front of that first pack. Deflected, still loose. Cleared out of there by Maryland. Preveston. Both these teams with huge experience on their back line. And speaking of experience, are you kidding me? Sasho Soroski now in his 24th season at Maryland. 2 national titles in 08 and 05, 8 college cups, 13 conference titles. There's no player on the field for Maryland that hasn't won a conference title.
It's unbelievable to me. When they jumped from the ACC to the Big Ten, they had just gotten done doing the double in the ACC, and then they just came over and repeated the performance in the Big Ten the next year. Sasho is one of the great gentlemen of college soccer, one of the great gentlemen of American soccer, to be honest with you.
Unbelievable ambassador for the college game. He's got a lot on his mind as well, and we'll get to that throughout the Big Ten conference season here on the Big Ten Network. Delighted to be with you here for Friday night college soccer on BTN. Maryland settles it, middle of the park. Pushes it up front. Our first look at Wild. Elney back to Wild. Little touch. Wild can create his own space. The shot. And just missed it. And hello, Gordon Wild. 5 goals and 1 assist. As Sasho Soroski said, the first big-time goal scorer since Patrick Mullins, and he won the McIrvin.
I tell you what, I didn't know anything about him. I started watching tape on Maryland. He has such a mature presence over the ball, Dean. He's incredible and loves to go to goal.
Transfer from USC Upstate. Wearing number 8. It's a corner kick early doors here for Maryland. Thompson comes out to make sure they don't use the short corner. There's Crognale. He gets his head on it. And Chris Doran, over the years, you've been asking for Crognale to score more goals. Last year, he broke out for 5 of them.
Yeah, and that was about the number that Sasho Soroski had told us would be the goal. 5 or 6 goals would be great, and mostly all on set pieces. You don't see him much in the run of play on the attacking side of the ball, but certainly he is the target, and he has done a much better job improving that aerial game, not just winning the ball, but then directing it to where it needs to be.
Second ball, won at first by Hyacinth. That was Elney, rather. It'll come back to Indiana. As Elney, along with Eric Williamson, who we showed was out, U.S. national team experience. There's Todd Yeagley. What a job he has done at Indiana. Of course, his father, the godfather, Jerry Yeagley, with 6 national titles. Todd got one for himself in 2012, just 3 years on the job.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible, and it was a great run. They started the season 4-0. Haven't quite done that. They're at 3-0-1 at this point in the season.
Ball stays, nope. Ball stayed in bounds, and didn't matter. Cody Niedermeyer was there as Todd Yeagley up off his bench. It's a true Indiana family story on the bench for the Hoosiers, as all those guys, big ties to IU.
Yeah, and added this year alongside associate head coach Brian Mazanoff. Kevin Robson, of course, is in there and repeating as an assistant with Brad Swemby, who's the goalkeeping coach. But Danny O'Rourke is now on the coaching staff.
Diego Silva switching numbers from 21 to 22, and he's on it right now. And of course, Diego Silva was featured last year on the Big Ten Network in that UCLA game, going end to end. Before the game was over, he pulled a hamstring, and you know what? He never fully recovered from that.
It's good to see him back in the starting 11. You were watching early on in the Maryland season last year and telling me on the phone about Diego Silva. You got to see this guy. And unfortunately, by the time we got to a Maryland broadcast, he had already been listed as unavailable for selection because of the injury. It's great to see him back.
Two of the best left backs in the country featured in this game, Silva and then Andrew Gutman. Had an incredible year last year as a freshman playing left back, wearing number 15 for the Hoosiers. Speaking of the Hoosiers, top of the 18, slid over. This is a big opportunity, and Niedermeyer there to shut the door on Andrew Gutman coming forward from the left back position.
We talk about Andrew Gutman, and you talk about backs getting forward. Most of those guys think they're just going to serve from the outside. Gutman loves to attack goal. He loves to be inside the 18. Jeremiah Gutjahr lays his ball off nicely to a wide open Gutman, and Gutman takes his first touch. Niedermeyer is up to the task, but a corner kick earned for Indiana.
Thompson creates his own space. Elney gets just a flick on it. Odui Atsum's in the middle of it. Still loose. Down, and a goal for Indiana. Sneaking in on a Richard Ballard. He was part of that 2012 National Championship team. And he has Indiana up 1-0.
I was a little surprised to see how Maryland was bending and not clearing this ball out. First shot by Gutman. The deflection lands right at the feet of Rich Ballard. Ballard was a sub leading up to this season. He always came off the bench with energy. Now he's doing it as a starter for the Indiana Hoosiers. And he does a terrific job early on in this match to put the home team up 1 goal.
2 goals already. You said it best, a super sub, as he pretty much did whatever Todd Yeagley asked him to do. Actually played 17 minutes in that 2012 National Championship victory for the Indiana Hoosiers. The redshirt senior now getting his chance and making the most of it. So Indiana on top of Maryland 1-0. As Chris Dorn and I were talking before the game, wondering how they were going to handle the loss of Grant Lillard, and that's a good way to respond.
Well, let's keep in mind Lillard is a really strong piece of the defensive back four, but in addition, an important part of the set piece plays that Indiana runs. The Hoosiers have got to get goals from the run of play, and they're going to have to put Maryland in a situation where they're chasing the game, and they've done that early now.
Wild dropped back to Sajic, right side. We're looking to find Chris Odui Atsum. The Hoosiers going the other way. Phil Fives.
It's really great work by Fives. He dribbles it out of the back, has no target, and he plays a quick 1-2 with Hyacinth.
Ballard the goal scorer with a touch back to Thompson. McConnell. Now Ballard again. Boy, he is playing with all kinds of confidence.
Great work by Frankie Moore, getting a little higher up the field and helping defensively.
You mentioned Danny O'Rourke. You think about Caleb Porter. That's where Francisco Moore sits, redshirt sophomore from Highland Park, Illinois. That has always been a critical spot for the Indiana Hoosiers.
Go all the way back to John Stolmeyer if you want. A World Cupper for the United States national team. That central defensive role has been so important over the years, and the players who find their way into the starting 11 for Indiana typically have a number of similar qualities. Those qualities are being very calm over the ball, communication, watching how the shape unfolds and comes together in front of them, both in attacking and defensive situations. And a lot of smarts goes into that role. Frankie Moore has demonstrated not only does he have the physical abilities to do it, he's got the mental capabilities to do it.
Jake Rosansky, you saw him as Maryland has brought in a couple quality players. They didn't lose much. They lost Tsubasa Endo. I shouldn't say they didn't lose much. They lost some quality players, but everybody that could come back did come back. And then they got Gordon Wild. We already talked about 5 goals. And Jake Rosansky, he won a national championship for Virginia. He's now playing for Maryland. That's
quite a find for the Maryland program. A great two-way player. And this guy, Gordon Wild, has made an early mark on the season, the reigning Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week.
Pushing and shoving there as Silva will let it go out of bounds. The Hoosier Army loud and proud here at Jerry Yeagley Field, the house that the Godfather built. 6 national championships. Dewey Atsum. Sasho Soroski calls him one of the best right backs in the country. And this was after he started as a center back, moved him to right back because he felt like that's what he's best suited for at the next level. Hyacinth busy. Ball to Thompson. Hoosiers on top 1-0. Thompson now into the 18, pushed off and sent flying there is Suli Danka. Back in the starting lineup. He sits at center back along with Konali.
One of the things that Tanner Thompson does so well is he's so aware of what's unfolding and what can transpire. You saw his head brought up, and he's scouting the numbers, the options in the box, until he's eventually closed down at the goal line by the defenders.
Gutman rips it right away from Wild, and he is slicing and dicing. The left back has come to play today.
He's a lockdown defender, but at the other end of the field, Andrew Gutman is so good on the dribble and gets so hungry the closer he gets to goal. Chicago Fire Academy product, looking to cut inside in the mold of Patrick Duty, but I think if you compare the two, a longtime left back for Indiana, the difference between Duty and Gutman is that Gutman's offensive prowess comes much sooner than when Patrick Duty was here at Indiana.
Yeah, I agree. He didn't have the numbers per se to show for it last year, but he was so dangerous coming up and down that left flank, and you can tell number 15 right there on your BTN screen is going to do more of that this year.
Now working off of Duty or Andrew Gutman's right shoulder is Tim Mell. Typically that's Grant Lillard. I'm sorry, it's Derek Creviston, and Tim Mell is playing the right center back. So there's going to have to be a lot of communication in that line in the back.
Excellent point from Chris Doran as Derek Creviston, normally your right center back, but he's had to slide over as Tim Mell, just the right-footed, will go over there, and they'll use Creviston alongside Andrew Gutman. Gutman and Lillard actually went to the same high school, so they know each other well.
Creviston is a rock back there as a redshirt senior. A lot of communication, even when Lillard's in the game. He always plays a little deeper than Lillard does.
Dewey Atsum. Deflected off of Gutman.
You see a Dewey Atsum. He's a converted center back for future use. According to his coach, he was playing in the middle. They put him to the outside, and the reason why is because you're going to make it at the next level as an outside back. I promise you that. He brings all the qualities of it. You see it when he gets to the attacking third.
Corner kick again for Maryland. This time from the other side, but once again they're looking for Konali to go off the top of his head and go out of bounds. Of course, Konali expected to be with the Columbus Crew next year.
Well, he would be tied to the Crew because of his Crew Academy affiliation, and you know that's one of the things that coaches like Sasho Soroski have got to keep track of. They've got to be tracking the clubs, the relationships, and there's a lot of communication in the offseason that these players have with their clubs, wondering, you know, what's the chance if I go now? Do I have to stay? What's a homegrown contract look like with Major League Soccer? These are all real conversations that these coaches have. A lot of the hard work for college coaches goes on from about December 15th until August 6th. That's the hard work. The easy stuff is coaching the guys and training in the games.
Amen. Suli Danka will come back to Niedermeyer. Maryland's got two great goalkeepers. Dane St. Clair, the Canadian U20 goalkeeper, is on the bench, and they started last season splitting time, but after 4 games, it was Niedermeyer who stepped up, and he was the Big Ten defensive most valuable player in the Big Ten tournament a year ago. Maryland started 0-3 against Indiana in this rivalry, but the Terps are 3-0-1 against the Hoosiers since they entered the Big Ten. Sasho Soroski saying he modeled his program after the godfather Jerry Yeagley, even as he was chasing down the ACC great teams Clemson and North Carolina, Wake Forest. He said it was a Big Ten school that he modeled his team over, and it's fitting now that he's in the Big Ten.
Oh, it's a very high compliment for Jerry Yeagley, and he gets that a lot. He and his wife celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary this week, and a lot of alums came back last week to celebrate not just the Adidas Classic, but also to celebrate the 50th anniversary. You see that kind of respect that so many players, former players, have from around the country, and I will say too, former coaches and current coaches too.
So with that as your theme here, Sasho Soroski telling us that in 2004 they lost in the semifinals to Indiana, the year after Jerry Yeagley had retired out at the Home Depot Center in Los Angeles, then named the Home Depot Center. After the game, the Godfather texted the man you see on the screen right there, said, "I'd like to go in the locker room." He walked in and said, "You guys are going to be champions. You're doing the right things." Guess what, Chris Doran? Next year they were national champs.
Unbelievable. What a great tribute to both of those coaches, that Coach Soroski would open up his locker room to Jerry Yeagley, and that Jerry Yeagley would accept the invitation and then give the boys that kind of word of hope that a championship was around the corner.
Of course, no one says no to the Godfather, though, right, Chris?
No, I would never do that.
Got a good one here. Indiana on top of Maryland, 1-0. As Webb boots it long. Cronali is there. Grant Lillard playing the role of Cronali this week. Basically pretending he was number 4 for Maryland. Indiana. Ballard with 1 goal already. That's Albrecht. Transfer from St. John's, redshirt senior, able to get an extra year after 2 long years at St. John's, where he tore the ACL on both knees year after year to start his college campaign. Elney just outside the 18. Heavy touch. And another corner kick for Maryland.
Get another restart. And this is a situation where Indiana's got to be tight defensively. You're almost promised that 6'5" Alex Cronali is going to get his head on this ball. You just want to make sure it's in an awkward position, far enough away from the frame that your teammates have an opportunity to react and then win the second ball.
Here's Kalix. Gets the start with Williamson out. We showed you that collision for Eric Williamson. To play.
Well, putting your impression on the game early and forcing the opponent to play the way you want to play is what Indiana has done with a 7th-minute goal by Rich Ballard. His 2nd goal on the year. Typically a super sub in his career here at Indiana, but earning his spot in the starting 11 so far this season. So you talked about Grant Lillard playing the role of Alex Cronali in training today. Yeah, you cannot, as Todd Yeagley told us, you can't pretend to be 6'5". Grant Lillard is 6'4". That's about as close as you can get, right? So Grant Lillard put on the opposing team's vest, and he scrimmaged with the reserves to give them a chance to learn how to defend against a taller player.
Speaking of the 6'5" Cronali, knocks it out of bounds, and that's because of the good pressure there from Rashad Hyacinth. As we talked about Wild and Rosansky joining. Nice pickup for Todd Yeagley. Thompson deflected off.
Well, Hyacinth is really strong in the air. He's got great team awareness on the dribble, too. One of the things Coach Yeagley wants him to do is to learn how to play various parts of the game. When he was with Belmont, because of his skills and his abilities, he was able to and accomplished a lot for that team. He did so much for that team. And when he came to Indiana, he was still trying to do so much for Indiana. Coach Yeagley had to take him aside essentially and say, hey, I got like 8 or 9 guys just like you. Okay, so you don't have to do everything. We can actually help you. And here's how you can help us. So, you know, it's a really interesting learning dynamic. But one of the things I've noticed about him, and I've watched a number of Indiana games, is that he has gelled so quickly with this new group of players. He's very comfortable with everybody.
Yeah, fits right in. I tell he brought that energy early because he wanted to fit right in. Nice conversation he had with that man right there, Todd Yeagley.
Tanner Thompson does everything for Indiana practically. Long throws, services on restarts.
There's a Thompson serve. Niedermeyer was just a step too late. Sato went off of an Indiana Hoosier. Just coming forward was Billy McConnell wearing that number 2 jersey.
Billy McConnell up in the scrum there. Looks like he turned his right hand, hit Cody Niedermeyer as Niedermeyer exited. See if he protects that right hand a bit.
Crystal clear. It went off Cronali, so a corner kick for Indiana. Take a semi-short one as Fives will send it back in. Deflected top of the 18, and Elney will boot it long.
Yeah, one of the reasons why Indiana would want to mix it up on those corner kicks is because the obvious service that's going to go in is probably going to be won by Cronali. Instead, when you take that short ball, maybe play a quick combination and then reload and then serve it back in, defenders are caught off guard. They're out of position or they're stepping out and away and losing their mark in the process.
There's Tim Mel. Drops a nice ball on the right side to Ballard. Ballard trying to chase it down. It'll be another corner kick for Indiana. Excellent service, though, from Timmy Mel.
And how about the collection by Ballard? Ballard's on the run with no room to spare along the touch line, and he brings it down with his first touch and then moves on the dribble.
Timmy Mel, the redshirt sophomore from Manhattan Beach, California. Neither one of these programs discriminate. They take the best players from all over the country, and as we see in Gordon Wild, all over the world. Fives, 3 goals and an assist last year. Mishit that one. Phil Fives, a redshirt senior from Pittsburgh. Halfway through the first half, Chris Dorn, your thoughts first on the visitors from Maryland.
Well, Maryland has got to start stringing some passes together. They're running into some issues with possession and not able to get into any sort of rhythm. I think Indiana's done a nice job defensively in the midfield to disrupt that possession. In addition, Indiana's created a lot of chances. So when Maryland does earn the ball and start getting forward, they typically don't find themselves in a place where they've got enough numbers to put a decent attack together.
Indiana has to be careful fouling Maryland anywhere past midfield because that'll allow Cronali to come forward, and they'll treat it like a set piece because of that size we keep telling you about. So Cronali is already pushed forward. He is in the scrum. Webb's got a beat on it, so does Cronali, and Webb was not going to be denied that time.
Colin Webb came into training camp this year the fittest he has been in his 4-year career at Indiana. Coach Todd Yeagley singing his praises about just how seriously Webb is taking this final year of eligibility with the Indiana Hoosiers.
There's Calix who stepped in there to take it away, looking for Wild. Timmy Mel once again in the right spot. Ball played over the top, but Cronali on the shield. It'll be run down by Odui Adson. All right, Chris, you gave us your thoughts on Maryland. How about the Hoosiers up 1-0?
Indiana's playing well. They're stringing some passes together and they're getting forward. I think Maryland's giving up a lot of real estate and not stepping to apply pressure as quickly as they should be.
Fives sent in. Ballard was there. So was Hyacinth. Silva trying to run it down. Can't get to it. Got just enough of it. Great sliding tackle by Indiana. Coming forward is Mikado.
That was great awareness by Frankie Moore. He was able to catch Maryland Turney with possession. Now a little changeup from the bench for the Terrapins.
This is the part of the game that I think if Maryland has any advantage at all, it might be the depth. Sasho Cirovski was adamant about the fact that he's got 4 or 5 quality forwards that can start anywhere in the country.
Yeah, Keegan Kelly's already got a goal. He's just a freshman wearing number 23. And DJ Reeves is an upperclassman, but he's also a good one too. So being able to freshen up the lineup and not feel like you're losing anything in the process is an important part of the game for a coach.
So Sasho Cirovski going to his bench already. Down a goal here. Richard Ballard is giving Indiana the 1-0 lead. Too strong. That's your first look at the sophomore Reeves, and Colin Webb will take his time. And
this is already game management, Dean. Colin Webb is conscious of the fact that it's all about managing the time on the clock. And so he's not going to rush to reset a goal kick at this point in the game.
Reese Buckmaster, the sophomore from Auburn, Indiana.
He's a good one. He was with the U17s back in 2012, product of the Indiana Fire Academy. Just a sophomore.
So it's Buckmaster for Phil Fives. 19 minutes remaining here in the first. Thompson along with Lillard, listed on the preseason Mac Herman watch list as 2 of the best players in the country. Of course, Tanner Thompson along with Tommy Thompson, who left early to join Major League Soccer, part of a huge legacy at Indiana. His dad winning the national championships for the Hoosiers. It's Francisco Moore again, getting there first.
Substitution for Indiana. Entering the match is number 7, Trevor Schwartz.
Trevor Schwartz will come on. The redshirt sophomore has already got a goal. Speaking of goals, Richard Ballard will get a well-deserved round of applause and a handshake from Todd Yeagley. He's got the only goal so far.
Trevor Schwartz scored his first goal of the season last weekend, I should say, to bring Indiana level with California, and Rashad Hyacinth able to get that game winner in front of a large crowd here at Armstrong Stadium Friday night.
Hyacinth with a shot from distance. So you see the substitution officially. Schwartz in for Ballard, and with Niedermeyer over the ball. There's Schwartz. Niedermeyer really showed his personality last year in the Big Ten tournament.
He is a really funny guy, the most valuable defensive player in the Big Ten tournament, and a guy who's extremely well liked on the Maryland campus. The Maryland goalkeeper was at one time a ball boy at Ludwig Field for Maryland. And we noted his personality in several situations over the course of the season. We finally learned that Cody Niedermeyer was a lip syncer on campus, and I think actually may have won a competition.
I'd like to see that.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, his personality stood out. He had that big game last year to open the season. His first appearance as a starter at Ludwig Field against UCLA. You were at that game. You called it.
Yeah, huge crowd. And in fact, I went the night before to practice, and they had like 2,000 students just at the practice, and it was Niedermeyer who was doing all of the interviews. So he was ready for that big moment. And what a thriller in overtime. Sebastian Elney with the game winner.
So you have a big performance to kick off your junior season like that, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have a little confidence working your way to another Big Ten tournament title.
Kelly had a touch a moment ago. You see the 8 national championships right there for Indiana. These two teams, there's only 5 college programs with 700 wins, and you're seeing 2 of them on the pitch right here.
I think it's great that they're both in the same conference now, too.
Danka. Danka was a starter for Maryland in the 2013 College Cup loss against Notre Dame, a game filled with controversy and questionable calls, and kind of was demoted and has worked his way back into the starting lineup, back at center back. Sasho Soroski singing his praises for sticking with it earlier this week.
All right, Maryland starting to lasso a little bit of this game back. Some fresh legs on the field for the Terrapins. They're finding it tough to get some channels open there as Indiana drops numbers behind the ball defensively.
That was Diego Silva making the run. Cleaned up by Rosansky. Keegan Kelly, freshman from Baltimore, Maryland. It's great seeing the students here. That Georgetown crowd, the 4th all-time biggest crowd for Maryland, featured 5,200 students. Are you kidding me?
It was their first week back at classes. Nothing going on. But you know it's always a party at Ludwig Field when the Terrapins are playing. And the promotions that I think college soccer have wrapped their arms around. Both these teams, when they're at home, they have special student body promotions so that there's incentive beyond just the game to come out and enjoy the experience of being out with your buddies.
Thompson with Indiana on top, 1-0, looking for that second. Maryland steps up to flex it, but the Hoosiers keep possession, and Thompson is right back on it. Swartz. Frankie Moore. He has looked solid tonight. Plays it into space to Swartz. Was it deflected? Nope, they'll say it'll go out of bounds against Indiana. The Indiana Hoosiers on top 1-0.
Oh, it was early on, 7th minute. A little scrum after a corner kick, and Gutman with a shot. The deflection lands at Ballard's feet, who puts it in the goal. Great awareness by Ballard. He's forward, but not offside. And the Hoosiers are riding a 1-goal lead.
Richard Ballard, the only player remaining on the Indiana Hoosiers that was part of that 2012 National Championship team for Todd Yeagley and the Hoosiers. Francesco Moore comes in hard. Sadich has a couple words with Francesco Moore. You get the feeling, the respect that Sasho Soroski has for the Godfather Jerry Yeagley and now Todd Yeagley. The players seem to have that same respect as well.
You know, you mentioned it earlier. Both of these teams had really rough and tumble second games on the Labor Day weekend, and they didn't come out of it altogether healthy. Indiana losing Lillard, but that was because of a red card, and Williamson lost because of contact to the head and not available for selection due to injury tonight. One of the things that we know about these two teams is that there's so much respect, not just for one another, but for the game, that tactically speaking, they are going to try to play this game with the soccer that they're accustomed to playing. The coaches are not going to alter their style at all. I would bet less than 10 fouls in this game altogether.
Well said. Todd Yeagley not too pleased with the style of play Jeremy Gunn and Stanford brought. Pushing for Roy Webb is way outside. And let's see what the referee has to say about that as DJ Reeves was trying to track it down.
Well, this is really heads-up work, dangerous work by Colin Webb, exiting his goal and probably doing a 24-yard dash from the goal line to get out there and help his defender on the run.
Chris, you mentioned that physical play. We'll take a look at it coming up at halftime. Stay with us here on the Big Ten Network. We'll show you last weekend's success for Indiana against Stanford and Cal, and Maryland's success against Georgetown and USF. It's coming up here at halftime. Hyacinth. Buckmaster making a run down the middle of the field. Thompson has to track backwards, though. Swartz squares it. Look at Gutman tucking all the way in. He's got freedom. Gutyard back to Gutman. He's everywhere with the right foot this time. So much for being a left back. He's all over the pitch.
Well, he had really done a nice job tucking in, and that must have been because Maryland wasn't offering anything in the way of cover or someone to cover on his side. So he cheats in, plays the ball out to Gutyard. Gutyard works the 1-2. Gutman has to cut back on the defender with his strong foot. Does a nice job beating Crognale, but can't quite place that ball in frame.
Andrew Gutman, Hinsdale, Illinois. Creviston directing traffic back there. Boy, and so far that communication, though, between Timmy Mel and Creviston, along with McConnell and Gutman, has been solid. Indiana now able to put their stamp on this game again. Here's Gutman, left side. Dewey Atson. Gutyard. Thompson. Well, you can see he was being played to the right side the entire time there by Crognale. He was not going to give him a right-footed shot.
He wasn't, but Thompson pulled the ball out of that crowd and still had possession.
McConnell sends it back into the crowd. Crognale's there first, and Thompson from distance, but just a little bit too high.
Well, we saw Rashad Hyacinth take a long shot earlier. That's another great effort by Tanner Thompson. Sure, he wants it a little bit lower. Tanner Thompson taking this ball into a crowd, realizing that he's got nothing there after the ball from Gutyard. One defender. Bring a second one in. No, he invites them in. He brings 3 defenders in, then he pulls the ball out. Really terrific work. Awareness that things are closing down and he's got to reload to another side.
Excellent look from our BTN crew. We thank all of them for being with us here. They'll go out of bounds. Todd Yeagley talked about, as you see Crognale moving McConnell inside. He played a little bit inside after Lillard got that red card, but decided to keep McConnell on the right and bring in Timmy Mel, and I think both of them have been solid so far.
Well, one of the challenges you run into when you start switching players on the field is you start to really, he's got one gap to fill, and that's that Grant Lillard gap. If you pull McConnell over, now you have to worry about McConnell there, and you have to worry about who you're going to put out on the right side. And when I say worry, I use that word loosely. They've got a lot of talented players on the Indiana squad. The point is that you don't want to create more problems by fixing a problem. And so I think it's actually not only wise, but it's relatively expected that a move with Timmy Mel in there and the support from Creviston, Gutman, and McConnell makes it an obvious fix. He's 6'1". He's got good size. He really is comfortable with his service. I love the way he lifts the ball to his target. See if he does it again here. All right, that's easy, but he's chipped a couple of balls. He just floats them right to his target. Very accurate with the service.
Here he is again, McConnell. Timmy Mel.
There's that long ball right to his target.
Perfect. Yeah, he looks calm and poised. Looks like the Denver Broncos quarterback.
It's only his 9th appearance in an Indiana uniform with a big game on his shoulders. He's doing quite well.
Albrecht. Wild. Wild had some touches early for Maryland, but has been quiet, as Maryland has not had a shot in the last 20-plus minutes. Here's Wild to try to change that. Deflected, though, by Francesco Moore. Buckmaster played it to Gutyard. He'll try to change the point of attack. It'll fall to Thompson. Look at Thompson. He'll look before the ball even bounces, and took a weird bounce. Gutyard cleans it up. Moore There's Campbell off the bench now. Sasha Swarovski saying Campbell is in form now for the Terps. He can score goals in bunches. Here's Gutman, what a ball! Looking for Swartz, almost found him. Also running on the other side was Pancho.
Again, this is Maryland bypassing the midfield. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You've got some fresh legs up top, but Andrew Gutman getting around the outside. Instead of dribbling into the final third, he looks around the defender and bends this ball into the back door. Almost found his target. That's a terrific ball from Gutman. And so he's showing now that he's got a couple of different tools in his toolbox. And I think a little bit more from Indiana in the way of getting around the backside of the line of defense, the final line of defense for Maryland, and they may actually find a connection on that far post.
Reeves plays it into his own space, and Timmy Mel able to make up that space. He'll knock it out of bounds, but it'll be a corner kick as Reeves making a dangerous run along the left side.
Reeves does a really nice job there, gets around Mel, nice big stride. The ball's out in front. Mel's got to give chase. Look at this, they're even right there, and that touch gets him around Mel, but Mel stays with the stride, and he's inside the box with a great slide tackle. So clean, so calm over the ball.
Timmy Mel, the redshirt sophomore, as Chris Doran told you in the open, only 8 appearances coming into this one. He looks like he's played 80. Well done, Timmy Mel. Corner kick, Maryland, their 4th of the game. Gronali always there. Looks like Makano has drew a lot of the responsibility to try to stay with Gronali. Of course, Makano, Philadelphia tough.
Yeah, he is. McConnell is terrific. He's a member or a product of the Philadelphia Union Academy. He's actually seen some reserve matches with the Union. Gronali with the Columbus Crew Academy. Crew SC will certainly be keeping their eyes on him following this his senior year.
The Terps bringing a 3-game winning streak after traveling out to UCLA to start the season. At the StubHub, they tied 1-1 against the Bruins, and then Maryland rolled off 3 victories over Hartford, Georgetown, and USF, scoring 11 goals. They've got 12 on the season in 4 games. Do the math, that's 3 goals a game, Dr. Doran.
Yeah, and that's more than twice the scoring rate of any other team in the conference at this point.
5 of them belong to Gordon Wild, a transfer from USC Upstate.
Penn State's Connor Maloney is tied with Wild at 4.5 shots per game.
The Terps looking to chip Webb as it's Reeves again. Kept Wild in, but brought Reeves off the bench, and he's looked good, the sophomore.
Just to give you an idea of what level Maryland and Indiana are at in the conference with regards to their personnel. Top Drawer Soccer does their preseason top 20 players for each conference. Half of the top 20 listed by Top Drawer Soccer is either Indiana or Maryland.
That's why between the 2 of them, 11 national championships. Indiana's been to 18 College Cups. Maryland's been to 13 College Cups. As you see Chris Odui-Apson. Edson, part of those 3 seniors in that back line. Cody Niedermeyer, Todd Yeagley. He's got to be pleased right now.
Todd Yeagley's got to be ecstatic given the fact that they were held scoreless on Sunday against Stanford. Played the overtime and got out frustrated by the red card to Grant Lillard. But going back to work on Monday and preparing for Maryland. It might be worth mentioning that Indiana's playing on 1 more day rest than Maryland is.
Rest is a key part of Sasho Soroski's behind the curtains work right now as he's looking to
One minute remaining in the first half.
soccer to a full academic year calendar. You'll hear Sasha talk about that anytime you want.
Yeah, I would say it's not behind the curtains. I watched the YouTube video, okay, so it's out there.
Sent long, deflected to Webb. Talked to Sasho Soroski as part of the NSCA College Soccer podcast today, and he wanted the floor to state his case. We'll keep our eye on that.
Well, he's got a lot of support in college soccer. There's no doubt about it.
Final 30 seconds here. He said when he puts his mind to something, it usually gets done, so that could be coming. Francisco Moore able to get to it first. He had his cleat up there, though, and he's whistled for the foul. Maryland now quickly here with the final 10 seconds. Probably not enough time for Cronale to push forward. They'll stop the clock, though. I think they will, yeah. Chico Rajeda, the man in the middle, with 1 second remaining. Boy, I wonder if they're going to add any time.
Well, Andrew Gutman and Corva went up. Emmanuel Corva went up for a head ball, and they bumped heads. Corva was slow to get up. I think Gutman was trying to call attention.
There's actually 5 seconds left, so it'll be enough time if they were able to get it in, but that'll count it down after 45 minutes of play, though. Richard Ballard with the only goal, and Todd Yeagley's Hoosiers lead Maryland 1-0.
Well, Indiana had the better of the half in terms of energy. I thought they peaked a little bit more than Maryland did. They also had good possession in the attacking half of the field where they were able to build plays and find some gaps and create some very dangerous chances for themselves. Maryland, on the other hand, I think they overlooked some parts of their game, in particular where it concerns building play in the midfield and getting forward with numbers and support. So some changes have got to take place for Maryland if they're going to find some scoring chances. They're not going to be able to rely solely on set pieces tonight, but the advantage of Alex Cronale, in order to get back into this game, they've got to bring more of an attacking style with them in the second half.
Defensively, no Grant Lillard, no problem so far. Timmy Mel has looked solid.
Timmy Mel is doing a very good job inside. He's got great support from Creviston, McConnell, and Gutman. And a lot of things are happening with Frankie Moore right in front of them, too. So a lot of confidence for Indiana and their defensive setup right now.
Teams walking off side by side. So much history. The Indiana Hoosiers and the Maryland Terrapins. Hoosier Nation loud and proud. They should be, with Indiana on top by a score of 1-0. And we're joined now by the head coach of the Hoosiers, Todd Yeagley, now joins us. And Todd, we're just talking about it. No Grant Lillard. Timmy Mel steps up, does the job defensively, and you get the goal you need.
Yeah, I thought Timmy did well. I mean, they're able to go direct and certainly able to play, and I thought Timmy did a nice job of winning some first balls for us. And we just got to do a little bit better on their second ball spacing, and once we do, we can play a little bit more in our front half. But there's been some great opportunities to go to goal, so it's one of those decisions that, again, we tell the guys to be goal dangerous, but a few times we could have stepped on it and rotated a few times.
Todd, in the attacking half of the field, it looks like a lot of things are coming together for you. You talked about your rotation has to be more astute, I guess, with the guys as they rotate through the middle and the front part of the field. What more do you want from them in the final third?
Well, it's just the decision is our number's good wide. We've been able to get, wide left quite a bit with Andrew. Billy's been able to get around. But a few times the numbers weren't right. Maybe we just skip it back around and find, Jerry or Frankie, and we just keep a little bit more possession and find the next opportunity. And also that will continue to find rhythm of the game and allow us to continue to have the ball.
Coach Todd Yeagley, thanks for being with us. Good luck the rest of the season as well.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Todd Yeagley. Chris Dorn, as you take a look at the first half stats, Maryland entered today averaging 7.3 shots on goal per game. They have 0 in the first 45.
Well, credit Indiana's defense, in particular in the midfield, where they've made it very difficult for Maryland to find their game. They're going to have to keep the possession and build from that and start getting some chances through the run of play in Indiana's defensive third.
Second half underway. You see Maryland in all white, Indiana. And their Hoosier red from head to toe. Right side, Oduyi-Atsem pushing forward. Oduyi-Atsem with a nifty move, sent back in. And Timmy Mel was there. Sasso Soroski wasn't happy with their movement or their effort on the second balls. Nice start here for the Terps.
And George Campbell is in, which is a bit of a switch. So he's going to bring a little energy in there. I thought that Amar Sejdic probably needs to get a little more time on the ball. Naturally, we expect Gordon Wild there on the corner kick to be on the ball quite a bit.
Wild on the corner. Cronali wearing number 4 at the moment at the far post. Will track his movement. They go short. Campbell, it bounces through Cronali. Oduyi-Atsem is there. And Hyacinth able to get in the way. Fives back in for Todd Yeagley and the Indiana Hoosiers. Chris Sasso Soroski flat out saying that wasn't Maryland Terrapin soccer you saw in the first 45.
Well, no, he preaches that you've got to compete both in skill and in will. His words, not mine. And he didn't see the will in a lot of pieces of that first half of play.
Cody Niedermeyer, the captain, along with Alex Cronali and Cody Albrecht, the 3 seniors. Score. McConnell. Long throw. Silva. Reeves. Off the bench at the tail end of the first half, and he stayed in there. And George Campbell also came on late, as Chris Doran also told you. It's 1-0, Chris Doran, and let's show the BTN watchers how they got there.
Well, this is a scrum after a corner kick. Gutman takes the shot. The deflection lands right at Mallon's feet, who puts it in the net. He gives the Hoosiers the 1-goal lead, his second goal of the 2016 season. His 3rd career goal. We've talked about how he was just a ball of energy coming off the bench for Indiana the last several years, and he's earned his spot in the starting 11 this season.
Your goal scorer, Richard Ballard. He has been an automatic sign-in for that starting lineup this year for Todd Yeagley.
Plays well on both sides of the ball, as do many of the midfielders for Indiana. You have to play strong defensively as well as offensively. All the hard work in soccer is done on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball just does not demand as much.
Into the box. Hyacinth was calling for it. He was hoping they could just flick it over to him. His hands were out wide, but not able to find Hyacinth.
Great work by Fives. Works with Moore, gets out of a jam.
Big Ten men's soccer conference action kicking off today. Earlier, Michigan State with a 4-0 thrashing in East Lansing of Rutgers, as the wheels have fallen off of Rutgers at the moment.
They're struggling. They're struggling with many aspects of the game, unfortunately. And for Dan Donegan and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, it's a very quick and short season. They've got to find some answers, and they have to do it quickly.
Fives putting pressure on Oduyi-Atsem. Throw in for the Hoosiers. It's Hyacinth. Transfer from Belmont. Ironically, Sasso Soroski And his wife, Shannon Higgins, one of the all-time great women's soccer players, won the Women's World Cup in 1991, won 4 national championships at the University of North Carolina. They have 3 outstanding daughters that play soccer. Their oldest daughter is not playing soccer in college, but Haley goes to Belmont. Sent back in. Carly is at Bucknell playing soccer, and they've got a little 7th grader, Ellie, the Soroskis do. That's going to be pretty good as well.
You don't have any choice to be good at soccer in that family, do you?
Are you kidding me?
Got a little 3v3 field in the backyard. Synthetic grass turf. I think I saw that highlighted in a magazine.
Wild is down. Yeah, you wonder. Sasho might have the nod on the coaching tree, although Shannon Higgins Sorosky was a great coach as well, and still coaching, I do believe, at the youth game. But as far as their playing days, as you see Gordon Wild go down.
Wild checks in and gets tied up with Phil Fives and then Frankie Moore, and then his abdomen. At least he grabs his abdomen. Hoping he's okay. You like to see the athletic trainer do the nod, headed back to the bench. It's always a positive sign.
Nod or a thumbs up, Chris.
Right.
Wild, 16 goals last year for USC Upstate, 5 already to start the season, leading the Big Ten.
His youth career was primarily with clubs in Germany, because that's where he was born, and so his exposure to the sport at a very young age and probably at a very high level has gotten him to this point. I think the way I heard the story was he had hoped that maybe his club career as a youngster would quickly turn to a pro career, and it just didn't appear as though it was headed down that path. He learned he had a chance to play soccer in college, could come to the U.S. and do that, and then after the year he spent at Upstate, he went ahead and pursued other opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. He was looking around, and Sasho Sorosky, right when Gordon Wild was starting to make his trips, Maryland was still playing Clemson. He said, just hang on until we're done. All you got to do is visit one time and you'll come to Maryland, and that's exactly what happened, and he's on it now. Wild looks up, takes a shot, and Webb diving to his right, able to parry it away.
Boy, and you can see no hesitation where Wild locks and loads from distance like that. That is a special crack-it goal, and Colin Webb up to the task. Boy, his technique, and when we have a chance, we'll see it again, but his technique in taking that shot was absolutely perfect. The way he had his head up, he scouted his target, then he dropped his chin, got over the ball, and followed through. It was really beautiful stuff in a very tight space, I might add.
Maryland now keeping it on the carpet. Sadich. He was so dynamic to start his Maryland career. Not said his name a ton today. Danka looking for Silva. Ballard, the goal scorer, tracking all the way back. And boy, you said the form of Gordon Wild. This is a BTN standout play on both ends of the ball.
He's calling for the ball. Such great technique. Scouts his target, drops his chin, lets that ball rip. Does such a nice job of staying over the ball. Very little movement after his body follows through, and then Webb with the big save at the other end.
BTN standout Gordon Wild. BTN standout Colin Webb. BTN standout Indiana and Maryland, full stop, period.
Just great stuff from both teams in that sequence. 8 minutes in, Maryland hungry to put a mark on this game.
Indiana now with no shots in the last 15 minutes.
Well, rest assured that the Indiana Hoosiers are not content just to play defense. They're not a team that's going to build an igloo around the goal mouth and hope for the best over 36 minutes that remain in this match. But they know that there are moments where in a game you have just got to be compact defensively. Maryland knows the same thing. And what Maryland's doing right now is gaining confidence in their possession. The big miss, though, is when they get to the middle of the field.
Campbell, side of his foot, deflected out. It'll fall. And it's Thompson coming all the way back. Hyacinth on the turn. With Danka on him. Tries to switch it to fives, and the referee thought about continuation for a moment, and now he'll whistle the foul on Danka.
This is one of those situations that Coach Yeagley's talked about. When Hyacinth gets this ball, he has to be content to wait for his teammates to get in underneath him. And he puts up such a tussle in his effort to try to get around Danka that he earns the whistle, which is terrific. But if he's playing up against a defender who's maybe not going to be so anxious to stay on his back, he's got to know what his next move is.
McConnell. And there's Hyacinth. Turn to his left, stays with it. He'll let it bounce. Danka doesn't dive in. Hyacinth maybe looking for a corner.
Oh, that's great stuff from Hyacinth. Thompson with the long throw for Indiana. Nifty touch from Gutjahr.
Thompson deflected. Corner kick, Indiana.
This is normally Phil Five's territory. Little surprised Thompson is going to go ahead and load up the outswinger. But it keeps that ball away from Crognale, so maybe they're hoping for a second chance.
Thompson looking far post. It'll fall to Gutman. Gutman, tight space, shielded off by Crognale. Good defensive work by the captain wearing number 4.
Service going out and away. Crognale steps in the cover position. He wasn't the first defender. He's the second defender, offering support to his teammate. Does a nice job stepping in and denying Gutman the corner to get around.
Chris, in your mind, is Maryland doing enough to get the equalizer?
Well, I'm still concerned about Maryland's effort at possessing the ball and building in the attacking half of the field. We just haven't seen enough of it. It appears as though in some way, and this could be tactical, that Maryland is content to challenge the Indiana back line with long services, hoping for a mistake or two, and allowing their 2 front runners to capitalize that way. And especially if Lillard's with Lillard out and Timmy Mel back there, though Mel's doing a great job. The thinking could be, hey, let's just keep putting them under pressure. Let's teach Mel that he can't step in his 7th or 8th appearance for Indiana and take on a team like Maryland. I mean, that could be an approach. I'm not saying that that's necessarily it.
Long throw in. Sebastian Elney back into the game. Coming in for Campbell. Elney goes down. The referee has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, and that's Mel on Elney. So he's, if that's what the plan is, then they're going to have to come up with a different answer.
Thompson right back to Fives, who went the other way with it. Sejdic steps in.
Sejdic is such a good player when it comes to keeping the ball on the dribble in tight spots. Plays for the RSL Academy out of Louisville.
Hyacinth, Frankie Moore. Hyacinth a little bit too strong. How did he do it? Near post. And the post, the 12th man right now for the Terps, keeping this one at 1-0. Back again. This time Cronale able to deflect it. There was almost no angle there for Indiana, and they're still going. Corner kick, Hoosiers.
Well, a couple of really dangerous situations there if you're a Maryland defender. And Rashad Hyacinth almost found himself another goal in this game. Great ball inside by Frankie Moore. Hyacinth doesn't even think about a second touch. He just gets that body laid out and gets around the ball enough to win the angle. Good for Cody Niedermeyer. Niedermeyer may have just had enough of that goal covered, but the post comes up with the save. That follow-up shot was deflected, so corner kick for Indiana.
Here comes the corner. Deflected, I believe, by Timmy Mel, right to Niedermeyer. Right now, Maryland grateful it's still just 1-0 down. As Hyacinth so close. The man from Trinidad and Tobago. Odui Atsum just not on the same page, though, with that final pass.
Well, we talked about this in the first half. How about Rich Ballard? Need any more confidence? Bottle that up.
Goal scorer flying high. The redshirt senior has hung around and now taking advantage of being a starter for Todd Yeagley, Brian Mazanoff, and the Indiana Hoosiers.
Maryland getting forward has been good at times, but they haven't had the numbers in support to get anything to happen. And again, I think in part that's a function of Indiana's defense and their commitment to getting numbers behind the ball.
Foul on fives.
Well, we've seen a couple of situations where Maryland has been a little slow to move the ball, and Indiana's been able to come in from behind. In this situation, Fives gets too much of the player. And the whistle blows.
Andrew Samuels off the bench for Sasho Soroski, who can go 20 deep. A couple years ago, he literally almost had 2 starting lineups. You'll see that on the women's game sometimes. Of course, Anson Dorrance in North Carolina is famous for it. Not always on the men's side, but Sasho Soroski, the depth for the Terps is well documented. Here's Thompson. Hyacinth in front. Thompson trying to get around Cronale. Cronale will just knock it out of bounds. It'll be another corner kick, Indiana.
Again, a situation where Maryland's just not moving the ball fast enough. And again, you have to credit how quickly Indiana transitions mentally into the defensive posture and immediately applies pressure to the ball in order to force a turnover.
Far side, Mel. Looked like he was sending it back on purpose. Fired there from Gutman. Niedermeyer with a big-time save. Thompson, as the Hoosiers have come to life here again.
Well, the challenge going into this game was how to compete with size, or the lack thereof, with Grant Lillard out and having to go up against the back line with Alex Cronale. They serve the ball far post. Gutman does a terrific job of shooting on that second chance. Cronale can't do anything at that point.
Andrew Gutman has been outstanding here tonight. He's got to be a guy who will be on the radar of several professional teams.
Well, he is on the list for the Chicago Fire because he could be a homegrown product.
Sadich. Wild now Silva. Silva with a turnover. Thompson, as Gutman from the left back perspective, has outplayed Silva here today. Ballard, a little bit too fancy that time. Chris, you've been a long-time coach, and you know when a player's feeling it, and Richard Ballard is feeling it.
Boy, he is. He's having a very special performance tonight. You know, in large part, I think it's a deserving reward for the work that he's put in not just over the summer in preparing for the season, but in preparing over the last 4 years for this moment to be wearing the Indiana uniform in the starting 11 in front of a crowd here at Armstrong Stadium.
Dewey Atsum into the 18. Once again, though, that final pass goes wanting for Maryland. Crognale will try to do it himself right now. The big man, 6'5", showing some soft feet. Well, Dewey Atsum back again, deflected. And that'll go to Colin Webb. 1-0 here from Bloomington, Indiana. Dean Linke along with Chris Doran. And let's take a look at how we got to this scoreline.
Well, it was early on after a corner kick. Gutman with the first shot, and then Ballard finishes it up on the deflection to put Indiana up 1-0. Second half, some chances. Maryland in particular doing a nice job. Gordon Wild with the shot. Colin Webb with a big-time save. Look how he drops his chin, fires, and Colin Webb keeps that ball from the far post. Opportunity a little bit later. Great work by Hyacinth to get around, and the post comes in the way of Indiana's second goal.
First the post, and then Niedermeyer was able to answer the save from Colin Webb on the other end to keep it at 1-0 as well. Fives wanted the call, doesn't get it.
That's a good tackle from Rosansky, sure.
Rosansky again won a national championship under George Galnovich at Virginia, and now he's here with Maryland. Tremendous work on the field as Todd Yeagley making some changes. Reese Buckmaster, number 19, coming back into the game for Todd Yeagley and the Indiana Hoosiers.
This is part of the benefit here as Jeremiah Gutjahr comes off, a sophomore, part of the U20 pool over the summer. Great international experience and a youngster, not only by age, but in terms of his experience. He's so young, but he has great experience. But when you could take Reese Buckmaster, who typically fills in for Billy McConnell on that right side in the back line, and throw him into the midfield, you talk about flexibility with your lineup and with your personnel. That's really important. And Sasha's been able to do the same thing with some of his players.
Rosansky. Get it back from Dewey Atsum. 23 and change left in this one. Expect some urgency from a Sasho Soroski coach Maryland team. Swartz heading it into the space of Thompson. Dropped back. And Ballard. Nope, the flag is up.
The way this game is going right now, where Maryland is struggling to find its opportunities, Dean, I think it's going to come down to one special performance in a moment's time by a Maryland player. It's going to have to, because it doesn't appear as a group that they are as committed as a group to get to goal. And I think it's going to come down to one special moment for a player in white to score a goal here.
Sasho Soroski talking about those special moments. How about Mael Corboz a couple years ago at College Park with the game winner for Maryland over Indiana in the Big Ten tournament final. That was a special moment.
Yeah, no kidding. What a set piece.
Danka. Woody Albrecht went to the bench for a little bit.
Indiana's got to be careful not to drop their line of engagement too far back. There's no need to do that.
Rosansky staying with it. And now some frustration starting to settle in for Maryland. You rarely see that.
It's a great ball to Buckmaster. Needs numbers to support.
Numbers weren't there, though, as 3 white jerseys surround the sophomore to go out of bounds, and Sasho Swarovski directing traffic for the Terps. They're down 1-0 as you see this coaching staff as well. Brian Rowland, Scott Butte. Of course, Jake Pace, former wrestler / soccer player. The director of operations is Phil Fives. Make his way over to Todd Yeagley in the Indiana bench. McConnell pushed to the ground by Odui Atsum. That's Corval, by the way, into the game now. My bad.
Yeah, McConnell on his way there, and Corval steps in a little heavy.
So number 26, Emmanuel Corval, who also hit a big penalty kick last year in the Big Ten men's tournament at Ohio State to help Maryland advance over the Hoosiers in the semifinals. So Emmanuel Corval now into the game. My apologies for saying Odui Atsum. Here's Swartz. Sadich drops it over the top. Elney is trying to find Emmanuel Corval.
We talked about this with Sasha Swarovski about how Sebastian Elney came to his program and was typically working in a single attacking system where he's the only one up top and there are players coming in underneath him, and he's got to learn if he's going to play in a system that has 2 front runners that you've got to have some chemistry with you and your strike partner. Elney had one partner last year, and that chemistry worked out pretty well, and now he's got a new partner this year, and it's going to take some time.
Luca Levy has checked into the game for Sasho Swarovski. As we said, they can go 20 deep. They're close to it. Chris, something's missing right now in this one for Maryland, particularly in that final third.
Yeah, I'm not getting a sense that there's any sort of commitment to goal from an individual or actually from a pair standpoint, even from a group of 3, where they can maybe isolate a defender or 2 and work their way through that crowd of 2 defenders. And while I don't want to sound too critical of Maryland, I also want to be careful to credit Indiana's defense, because I think they've been very keen defensively tonight. Frankie Moore, terrific in that holding midfielder role, does a lot of dirty work. Won't have the stat sheet accolades that so many of the players in front of him will have, but certainly holds on to the bagel on the scoreboard for the opponent each night.
Heavy touch from Corval. Tim Mell. Excellent job filling in for Grant Lillard, who received his first red card ever, he said, in that Stanford game with 2 yellows in the first half. Big Ten men's soccer conference play kicking off tonight. Earlier right here on BTN, Michigan State knocked off Rutgers 4-0. Northwestern and Ohio State tied at 0s at the half. Michigan and Wisconsin just getting going. Here's a shot from Swartz. Niedermeyer will parry it away. Corner kick Hoosiers. Cody Niedermeyer telling his team he should have had that one. Todd Yeagley now going to his bench and taking their time. Why not? They're up 1-0 against the Maryland Terrapins. Indiana number 4, Maryland number 5. And Thompson will get a break.
Yeah, and he deserves it. Look at what he does. Comes in on the tackle, then he shields away from 2 defenders. and then he finds his teammate who's able to get a shot off. Tanner Thompson, Mac Hermann Trophy finalist, headed into the season, or on the watch list, I should say, headed into the season.
Bloomington, Indiana, home to the Indiana Hoosiers, also home to Chris Doran, who is also now in the Indiana Soccer Hall of Fame. And I send you my congratulations. Well deserved, and what an honor.
Thank you.
Had to be a big day.
It was a terrific day. It really was. Thank you for sharing that. My wife and I celebrated with my children and my parents. And, I was joined by two people who I really respect in our soccer community. Former IU women's coach and assistant men's coach, and former IU player Joe Kelly, honored posthumously by the Indiana Soccer Association. And Mary Runnels, a local advocate for youth soccer and administrator in Bloomington.
Good friend, the Hall of Famer Chris Doran. Indiana up 1-0, looking for another one. Square it, spinning. The Hoosiers earning another corner kick. Hoosiers, as they settle over, I do need to let you know that Maryland has scored a goal in the final 15 minutes of each of their last 3 games, but right now they are as far away as they can possibly be from their goal.
Again, game management as Trevor Swartz takes his time getting to the corner.
8 corners for the Indiana Hoosiers. Mel. Chris, even that ball, as you think back to what Sasso Sorosky said to us to start the second half, it's not Maryland Terrapin ball when the second balls are not won by their team, or even the first ball. The effort right there in the corner wasn't totally there.
No, and Indiana's been doing this now all night long, trying to bypass the size of Alex Crognale. They serve the ball far post, almost like it's a floated ball instead of a whipped-in ball, which is terrific from a tactical standpoint, because you win that, you can get that ball back into the center, maybe even on the ground, and Crognale becomes a non-factor in terms of his size. So having seen Indiana do that several times tonight, Maryland maybe needs to do a better job of being alert to how to handle that. Boy, that's a tough foul and a card. Reese Buckmaster going down. He was off to the races 1v1 with Cody Niedermeyer.
Heard the applause, so that usually means paint came out. I think they'll give it to Samuels.
He did get some ball. Maybe not on the trailing foot, though.
Yellow card to number 13, Samuels. Clock is stopped. 13:15 remaining. Fouls are 7 apiece. Chris Doran told you they'd be under double digits, and as usual, he was right. Here's Swartz over the ball. Left foot, Niedermeyer. Punch it 30 yards.
Yep, good work technically. Extends his arms, gets that ball out of danger. Some folks might say, well, why doesn't he catch that? Well, it's coming around a couple of bodies, and he's generally just predicting.
Now Nakano will get a card returning the favor to Samuels.
McConnell's got to be careful. That folks who don't know, yellow cards, you accumulate yellow card points now in college soccer, and you know, Ohio State got stuck with some players who had to sit last year at critical times late in the season. You don't want to be in that position.
Clock is stopped again after a yellow card. Just told you, Maryland likes to score late. They need to. They're down 1-0. Sasho Soroski has emptied his bench as well. Webb will punch it out.
Good work by Maryland. It's a great service by Sejdic. Colin Webb with the box out. The second opportunity was cleared by Indiana. And Indiana's got to minimize any risk of allowing one special moment in this game where a Maryland player is able to do something very special.
Donovan Pines with the long throw in as the freshman from Clarksville, Maryland, also off the bench. As you get the feeling, Sasho Soroski has just said, hey, starters aren't doing it. He's throwing everybody out there.
Well, guys have been sitting on the bench. They've watched this game. They see what's unfolded. They know what their role is when they go in. They think, well, maybe I do something a little different. And there's a different outcome. It's been quite a game early on in the first half. Andrew Gutman takes the shot. The deflection lands right at Rich Ballard's feet. And he finishes it up. Indiana 1-0. Second half now. Gordon Wild goes crazy with that left-footed rocket. Colin Webb keeps it out of the goal. A chance down the side. Hyacinth gets around this ball into the post and goes and away.
There you have it, 1-0 with 11 minutes remaining here. Maryland, the preseason pick to win the Big Ten. Indiana, pick number 2. The Hoosiers, though, so good at Yeagley Field. Just 9 Big Ten men's soccer teams. Every game so important. You get 3 early on. Riding high.
Really important to get off to a good start, not just in the regular season, where you've got a lot of strong teams that count in favor of your RPI, but you also want to make sure that your conference schedule is started on the right foot too.
Hoosier Army loud and proud in front of Gutman on the throw. Maryland, despite it being down 1-0, they've had no shots in the last 15 minutes. Great update from Safi Khalil, our outstanding stat man. Thanks Safi for all his hard work. Both teams looking to make some changes here. There's Indiana.
My.
Wow. They're saying they're calling the foul on Moore.
Wild didn't go up for the challenge. He ducked. You remember Todd Yeagley told us that defending set pieces is going to be a critical part of their success tonight. Indiana, though, in a situation on a set piece where either Wild or Sejdic could go ahead and hit this.
Chris Doran talking about those Maryland special moments all game long. They have gone missing. Could it be here? Chico Grajeda marking off the 10 yards. Sejdic, but Wild looks interested. Wild will take the shot and not even close and hardly special.
Well, he knows he can be better with that. Got a little underneath it. Trying to get it up over the wall. That's a frustrating moment for Gordon Wild, who has otherwise had an outstanding first 2 weeks of this college season.
5 goals and assist. Sasho Soroski saying they're most true goal scorer since Patrick Mullins. Of course, Mullins and Jason Gary, both from Louisiana, winning the Mac Herman Trophy. Those two could score goals. Wild with a little bit of frustration on Billy McConnell shoving him out of bounds. There was a lot of that
and he'll get a talking to. There was a lot of that last week, and the game against Stanford in particular in the first half. And Coach Todd Yeagley talking this week about how proud he was that his guys remained calm and kept their composure over the course of that very frustrating first 45 minutes of play against the defending national champions.
There's another second ball, one. Hyacinth, step over. Some Trinidad and Tobago flair for Rashad Hyacinth. 7.5 minutes remaining in this one, and Indiana on top 1-0. An early goal in the first half. Richard Ballard. Here's Buckmaster. His pocket picked. Then a heavy touch. Oh, look at Moore come in. Looked like he was fouled there. Boy, I thought Danka fouled Moore.
Well, there were bodies flying there in that sequence. Moore gets the ball, he wins it, but then in comes Buckmaster with Danka, and a bit of a sandwich, and Moore's caught in the middle.
And then Pines taken out by Hyacinth. Frankie Moore still down on the ground. College soccer thriving right now. We told you about the 7,000 plus last week for Maryland Georgetown. 3,038 on a hot, humid night in Bloomington. And they had a huge crowd last weekend as part of the Adidas Classic. And there it is, Yeagley Field at Armstrong Stadium. Solid crowd here again in Bloomington.
Always showing up to support the Hoosiers. Frankie Moore up and walking with what appears to be under his own power.
Maryland bombs it in. Webb will let it roll out of bounds, and he won't be in a hurry. Indiana will be happy with that.
Colin Webb already getting a little talking to from our referee tonight.
Thompson will check in at the next opportunity with just 6 minutes remaining. This is dangerous in the 18. Creviston just makes sure, and it's a corner kick, Maryland. Campbell over the ball.
Again, this is a set piece. Gordon Wild is going to whip this ball in. Their big target, number 4, Alex Crognale, is going to try to get at the end of this. Indiana tucks defenders inside both posts.
Ball making the run. McConnell climbs the ladder. Donovan Pines. Basically almost a new 11 in there for Sasso Soroski. Including Samuels off the bench.
They're parking bodies at the top of the 18, just looking for service now.
Wild. Campbell has it taken away. Indiana going the other way. Out of bounds. That'll allow Thompson to get into the game.
Corner kick opportunity as Wild serves this ball in. A couple of big targets inside. Crognale comes flying. Whoa, maybe a handball in there. Billy McConnell's been getting up, and his arms may have gone a bit higher than he had expected. Contact with the ball possible, but Indiana getting out of that. No call.
That would have been a travesty based on how this game has played out so far. Thompson Tried to get through 2 extra white jerseys. It was Danka that was able to clean it up, and Indiana has no problem bombing it long. So Cody Niedermeyer comes out. Does Maryland have an equalizer? Chris, we've seen Maryland play so many times, even before they joined the Big Ten, and just feel like that urgency right now is not there for the Terps.
Well, I feel like the urgency has picked up a little bit, but
Well, there it is. One bounce as Elney comes off the bench, and that's what we're talking about, but Webb able to clean it up.
The urgency has started to pick up as they're seeing the clock wind down, knowing that all they need is a goal, but it's almost as if a plan is absent from the urgency. And this is how any team would react. It doesn't matter if it's Maryland or any other team down a goal. They're going to serve this ball big and long, and they're going to get it into the box and hope that something comes from it. I mean, Donovan Pines is 6'5".
That's Pines who got it. And there's Cronali, and it went through. There's your urgency, and it's tied at 1. Cronali, Pines, and it's 1-1.
Well, we talked about how the size was going to be a challenge here. Ironically, Cronali finishes that with his foot.
And the Indiana faithful, Hoosier Nation, the Army is shocked.
A big ball served in. Pines is there. Cronali turns, gets that big frame around the ball and plants it.
Boy, Webb's going to be disappointed he wasn't able to get it, but how about Cronali on the turn? And
he was like a windmill. He's like one of those big white windmills you see out on the highway on the interstate. He just flung that right leg around and did a terrific job of getting that ball in goal.
Let's see if Indiana can answer here now in the final 3. It's McConnell. Diving header from Maryland in that back line as Sasho Soroski has gone to his bench. It was Pines, just as Chris Doran talked about his height, able to climb the ladder, keep it alive, send it over to Cronali, and we are tied at 1 just like that.
Big ball in. Pines lets it go. Cronali turns, goal. Beautiful stuff, and through the hands of senior goalkeeper Colin Webb.
Hyacinth. Dewey Atson. Taking it out of bounds. Under 2 minutes remaining. The Hoosiers had looked dominant for a good part of this one, including in the second half, but Maryland able to answer.
Maryland goal scored by number 4, Alex Cronali. The assistant to Donovan Pines.
It's Campbell. Had it for a moment. Thompson over to Swartz. Headed out of there by Pines. Donovan Pines. A couple of giants in the back now for Sasho Soroski.
1 minute remaining in regulation.
Timmy Mel will knock it out of bounds. Boy, if you're Indiana with overtime potentially looming, are you deflated just a little bit?
Yeah, I think you have to be a little deflated. I mean, you start to watch the clock even as the team in the lead, and you think, you know what, we're doing this. We're really doing this. And the tactical change was getting the 2 big bodies up top as targets, and here comes Donovan Pines with the long throw.
There it is. Heaves it long, snapped out of there. Maryland scored a goal in the final minute versus Georgetown. We showed you that at halftime. Indiana scored a goal in the final minute to start the season against New Mexico. Cleared out of there by McConnell as overtime is just 10 seconds away.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
Danka will take a shot. In a game you felt like Indiana had in the bag, Sasso Soroski's team never quits, and we're tied at 1.
No surprise here. These two teams are tops in the country, and both boast terrific veteran talent. And two really great coaches who know how to take teams through situations like this. And so Colin Webb certainly disappointed. He had both hands on that ball, but Crognale did such a nice job of getting his body around in such an awkward way, finishing with his foot. And I say that with irony because we've been talking about Crognale's size and how dangerous he is on set pieces, being able to get over players, win head balls, and get that ball down. But in that situation, Crognale is able to use his foot, turn the ball, and get it to goal.
Like that shot right there, Donovan Pines, number 2, big handshake. He had the assist to Alex Crognale, who tied it late. What a way to kick off the Big Ten men's soccer season with a little extra soccer. Number 5, Maryland won. Number 4, Indiana won. Overtime soccer around the bend. Soccer on BTN is brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. 11 national titles between these two teams. Todd Yeagley won one as the head coach in 2012 to go with 6 from his dad, the Godfather. Sasso Soroski has 3, and here we start the Big Ten season 2016 style, and we're going to overtime. 7th
minute, it was a situation where Indiana was able to get a rebound off a shot. It settles in front of Rich Ballard, who gets his second goal of the season. Up 1-0 in the second half. Opportunity with Gordon Wild. Drops his chin, lets it go. Colin Webb makes the save. Great crack at goal by Wild. A little bit later on, Frankie Moore. Here's the ball to Hyacinth, who gets around it, but the goal post is in the way. Tanner Thompson, far post. Ball headed back by Mel. Great work by Mel, ripped by Gutman, and it's saved by Niedermeyer. How about this by Alex Crognale getting around it on the windmill and finishing the play to get Maryland even with Indiana.
16 shots for the Hoosiers, 12 for Maryland. We saw a couple of those saves, but one snuck by Mr. Webb late, and that's why we've got some extra soccer.
Well, this is going to be interesting to see how, keep in mind that when Maryland scored their goal, they went ahead and put a bunch of players up towards the top of the 18, including a couple of 6'5" guys. As we enter overtime, just a reminder of what the rules are. Looking for sudden victory, the Hoosier faithful, members of the Hoosier Army. That's a student-only section here at Armstrong Stadium. But what I was going to say is the setup, Dean, is a return, I would suspect, to the way this game started for both Indiana and Maryland. And so let's see if Maryland is able to own a little bit more of the not only possession, but see if they can work their way into the final third and in groups of 2 or 3 players come up with something that leads to a crack at goal.
So overtime soccer here Friday night on the Big Ten Network. Dean Linke along with Chris Doran, delighted to be with you. Earlier, it was Michigan State taking care of Rutgers by a score of 4-0. Great start for Damon Rensing and the Michigan State Spartans as we start overtime. Sudden victory. If it's not Maryland or Indiana, who might chase them down for Big Ten title?
Bob Warming, Penn State always seem to get it together.
Michigan Wolverines have a pretty good team this year as well. Indeed. For Shaka Daly.
Dean, you know, we went to week 7, match day 7 last year, match day 8 to figure the whole thing out. So one game does not make a conference season, that's for sure.
Crognale. Dewey Adsum. Too strong. Sadic will take a shot. Not on frame and out of bounds. Tonight's game, not your only top 5 matchup in men's college soccer. The Tar Heels knock off Clemson by a score of 1-0 in a game also featuring 2 teams in the top 5. Eight minutes and change left here in the first overtime. You score, you win. I love that about college soccer in the overtime. Buckmaster dispossessed on the right side.
That's a nifty ball by Sadich.
Reeves taken away by McConnell.
It's got to be a foul.
Donovan Pines.
Wow. The assistant referee called an elbow. On Rich Ballard.
Boy, it looked like even Pines was convinced it was a foul.
Yeah. Well, that's a lesson for the young freshman. When the whistle blows and you want to convince the referee that you didn't foul him, you got to run the other way. He was just too honest in that situation.
Thompson running the right way for the Hoosiers. He'll drop it. Gutyar puts it back to Gutman off of Ballard, and Ballard almost the right place at the right time yet again.
Jeremiah Gutyar is a great defensive player. He plays the game very simply. He's very typical of what you see coming out of the youth national team system. Real simple touches, does nice work in the midfield. In this situation where he turns the ball back and he lays it off for Gutman, he's putting Gutman in the situation, I think, where Gutman's got to beat a lot of people in the box. That is to say, he's got too many blockers there. I would have rather have seen Gutman challenge to get around the corner of that defender and either take a crack at goal or serve the ball back. Gutman's got to, he's got to build more, or Gutyar's got to build more confidence with the ball. He's a terrific young player.
Cronali with the right foot. Was trying to find Wild. Campbell. It was Elney who played it back to Wild. Now Odui Atsum. Gave it a touch first. Fives comes over.
Yeah, but he made it easy on Fives, didn't he? He took that first touch and it was away into the corner.
Let's take a look at the NSCAA rankings coming into tonight. See Indiana and Maryland at 4 and 5. North Carolina going to 4-0, knocking off Clemson. Notre Dame, who was in Bloomington last weekend as part of the IU Adidas Classic. #1 team in the country under Bobby Clark. There are 5 pretty formidable teams right there.
Notre Dame had a great weekend in Bloomington. They beat Stanford and Cal.
Ballard did not think he was offside. First overtime. You're just joining us here on the Big Ten Network. It was Richard Ballard with the first half goal, and it looked like Indiana, under the direction of Todd Yeagley, was sitting pretty as they were pretty much dominating late as Sasho Swarovski went heavy to his bench, but Donovan Pines able to take a long ball and flick it over to the big man in the back, Alex Cronali, and that's why we're tied. Campbell spinning around. Thompson will take it away.
First turn was good. That's a great touch by Campbell. Second chance for Maryland.
Gutman dropped it over to Thompson. Wild comes back. Gutman keeps it alive. Maryland still not done, going back to the bench. Crognale foul. Alex Crognale, the center back for Maryland. Grant Lillard not available because of 2 yellows against Stanford. 2 of the best center backs in the country. We were hoping to see both of them. Unfortunate for Grant Lillard, who is not a red card kind of guy. He's never had a red card before. But Crognale, with the spotlight solely on him as far as center backs, has come up big.
Well, he has, and I do think that Derek Creviston and Tim Mell, who stepped in for Lillard, has done a great job. They've done a great job too, but certainly the heralding that goes on before a season starts. Alex Crognale, you're absolutely right, Dean, is the guy who has the spotlight shined on him.
So that'll bring on Connor Smith. For that great McDonald program as Sadic will come out. 2 minutes and 30 left here in the first overtime. Maryland trying to win it right there. It was Wild who was hoping to steal one here in the first overtime.
And you know, you watch Wild over the course of a game and you say to yourself, in that situation, 1 out of 3 chances like that, he finishes.
Connor Smith had it taken away. Donovan Pines came off the bench and placed in the back line. He's just a freshman.
Gordon Wild offering great width as Maryland looks to shift the ball, get away from the Indiana pressure. Again, I think Wild has this chance 3 times. He finishes it at least once. Just not enough time to position himself in the right spot to catch that ball on the hop off the turf.
Yeah, it looked like it almost came off his shin. Reeves touched too heavy. McConnell will clean it up, and Indiana will try to go the other way.
Boy, the 1v1 defending in this game has been very interesting, hasn't it?
Nominal. Buckmaster tucks inside. Thompson has been calling for it forever. They give it to him late. And when 3 white jerseys are there, Wild comes over, and let's see if Indiana takes their time. They're going to stop the clock.
Had about 3 inches of rain in Bloomington yesterday, last night as a matter of fact, so that the turf is a little soft is no surprise.
Clock is running. Thompson will just try to put it on the other side of the 18. It's exactly what he does. One first by the Hoosiers, second ball there. And Pines, the big man. Final 10 seconds of the first overtime. Crognale sent that back where it came from, and we'll have more soccer. After 90 and a first overtime, 2 of the best teams in the history of men's college soccer are tied at 1.
Well, a decent performance from both, some chances, but nothing really coming from it. And I think we're going to probably see these 2 grind it out here in this second 10-minute period. Who's to say which way the game goes? I mean, you know, if the big men are in there and Maryland defaults to big services to the top of the 18 and hopeful in those services, something could come from it. But I think Indiana probably learned their lesson the hard way about leaving free men open, leaving the big men open.
Chris, let's go to work here and show everybody how we got to this overtime point. Early on, Richard Ballard got Indiana going.
Yeah, good stuff by Andrew Goodman. Gets the shot and then the rebound to Rich Ballard. Ballard does well to just finish that play up. Indiana goes through the first half 1-0. We go through much of the second half. The score is still 1-0. Then the big men go to work. Alex Crognale with the windmill. And he pops that ball past the goalkeeper, Colin Webb, who has it go right through his paws. Webb is shifting to the left. His lower body's to the left. His eyes see the ball go to the right. Gets his arms up and not behind the ball in time.
You also mentioned that rain as well was a little muddy. Couldn't tell if his foot slipped or not, but that's a ball. You mentioned Wild will hit 1 out of 3. Webb will get 9 out of 10 times, I believe.
No kidding, Dean. You're right.
So Ballard, the only goal for Indiana. Alex Crognale, who will be with the Columbus Crew next year, most likely. "6'5" captain. You think 6'5" defenders for Maryland. You think Omar Gonzalez, who, by the way, how about the USA and the young 17-year-old? You talk about Billy McConnell from being from Pennsylvania. How about Mr. Christian Pulisic?
Yeah, he's incredibly special.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
Here comes Ballard again. Pines will knock him off the ball. Exciting time, soccer all levels in the U.S. Landon Donovan coming back to the LA Galaxy.
Welcome back. This is interesting now. Indiana's got a corner kick, but they've got 2 6'5" defenders in there that they're going to have to figure out how to beat. Be interesting to see if maybe they go with a shorter service, near post service.
They'll bomb it in there, and there's one of the 6'5"ers. Pines first. Dewey Atsum second. It'll stay with Indiana. Gutman, who has never stopped. Over to Schwartz. Back in on the ground. Thompson can't get to it. So the Terps now going the other way. Jake Rosansky back into the game. Campbell drops a pretty ball to Danka. Jorge Calix, who started the game for Eric Williamson, has been out for most of it. Back here in the second overtime. He serves a left footer, and Colin Webb makes sure he has this one.
Boy, Calix is so good. He played with the U.S. U-17s, and then he played with Honduras' U-20s. With the DC United Academy, he is such a fine player.
And there is Calix right on cue. Pines. Basically what they've done is they've taken Silva off and moved Danka out to left back and brought Pines and Crognale, and both of them at 6'5". A wall back there now for Maryland.
Gordon Wild ran into a bit of a wall himself and Andrew Gutman. And Gutman earning the foul. But yeah, you're right. There's quite a group back there for Maryland.
5 shots on goal for Indiana, 4 for Maryland. Both teams able to put one in the back of the net. Crognale. Boy, and Chris, you said it. They're going to bomb it long. It's not going to be easy to get by Crognale and Pines. Thompson. Excellent pass to Ballard. Calix. Sebastian Elney looking for him to come to life here. Sasho Soroski and the Maryland Terps starting to play here late. Crognale kept on the ground. Good move by Gordon Wild.
Gordon Wild has got a great left foot. He can hook this ball into the far post. If either or both of the big targets are out there, can bet they will be. Wild's actually going to go ahead and defer.
I believe it's Calix.
Yeah.
So Wild will find a spot 5 yards inside the 18. Under 6 minutes remaining in the second overtime. Will we have a winner? Calix. Sent back where it came from. Samuels. Now Webb. Elney.
It's a great ball by Samuels. Colin Webb up, wins it. Felt like he wanted to at least shake hands with Elney.
Hoosiers next game in 5 days at Michigan. Maryland's next game at Rutgers on September 13th, 4 days away. Wild looking for the call, and he'll get it.
It's Indiana's pushing their luck a little bit with these deep restarts that they're giving up.
Already told you about Maryland's late game heroics. Showed it to you, that win over Georgetown. Wild will not defer this time.
This might even be on frame, Dean.
Yeah, he likes to put it in there on pace to see what can happen. I think you're right, Chris. That's exactly what he does. Sent in there with some gusto. Right back, though, to the feet of Wild. Calix was open for a moment. Wild trying to do it himself. Fives with Pines all over him, but it'll go off of fives, throwing back to Maryland.
Substitution both ways. Entering match, Maryland with number 11, DJ Reeves, replacing 17, Calix. Number 6, Jack Griffith. Replacing number 17, Jeremiah Gugar.
Jack Griffith, the redshirt sophomore from Danville, Indiana. Into the game now for Todd Yeagley and the Indiana Hoosiers. Long throw in. Still loose. It'll bounce to Webb, and he'll take care of it. 3 minutes and 10 seconds remaining in the second overtime. Somebody scores, they win. Nobody scores, it'll go down as a tie, Chris.
And a draw in the end between the two teams figured to be 1 and 2 in the conference at the end of the season. Not all that bad. As we mentioned, both are coming off relatively successful, though trying weekends of play. And if they do have the anticipated success through the course of the Big Ten season, they will no doubt have a say in what happens with the Big Ten tournament.
Danko with the throw in. 2:22 remaining, second overtime. Griffith snaps it out of there. High pressure from Griffith, but just a little bit too late. Schwartz able to get in the way. Here's Samuels. Back in for Maryland, a player down. No whistle.
That's Cronulla.
Alex Cronulla, the goal scorer tonight for Maryland.
Take a look at the right of your screen as we roll to replay. Our crew caught this on the right there. He's turned away from the ball, and now he's apparently selling contact with McConnell. No one was buying it.
Excellent shot by our crew under the direction of Doug Brown. Excellent staff here. And yeah, Crognale was a little bit of acting there, I think. 90 seconds remaining here in the second overtime. McConnell snaps it back.
Offside.
Ballard offside again as he tried to spin off shoulder to shoulder.
Well, Ballard was offside and then checked back to an onside position, and I think that's where Richard is probably really frustrated. He doesn't realize that he's checking so deep that he's in an offside spot.
Neither Indiana or Maryland has had a shot here in the second overtime. It's Cody Niedermeyer, the goalkeeper, out near midfield, will bomb it in. Danka back across right in front. Webb gets a piece of it. It's still loose. Boy, in Maryland almost stole one right there, and they still have it. Danka. Boy, it looked like Webb couldn't quite find the ball.
He was down. He got a touch on it.
That'll roll off the head of Crognale. How about this flurry?
That's a nice ball inside. And on the wet turf, Webb not able to smother that ball. It's loose. A harried couple of seconds there for Indiana as Maryland attempts a last-moment goal.
It was Gordon Wild who made that run. Kind of a wild start here to the Big Ten Men's Soccer Conference season. Alex Crognale with the equalizer to tie it at 1, and perhaps Maryland's happy with that point.
Oh, they better be happy with it. It was a terrific effort. They had to really change up their tactics at the end of it all, at the end of regulation, in order to get level with Indiana. The Hoosiers were tested by the fact that they didn't have their biggest player available to them tonight, but I think overall they actually played very, very well and responded.